There's a place within all of us that is the warrior. Uh, that's the place. There's a place where we stand up for ourselves, where we stand up for injustice. There's a warrior within all of us. That it's the part of you that has the gumption. It's the part of you that gets excited. It's the part of you that has the energy. It's the part of you that's bold and courageous. And that is Mars. And that's what we'll be talking about today as Mars goes direct on the 23rd of February. So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you. For those of you that are new and don't know me, my name is Cindi. I am at Simply Cindi. I am a psychic medium. I have lots of tools in my basket, and astrology is a passion of mine. I just love it. I will see things in a very different way, very unique, different perspective. So, hang in there with me. The Mars in you is the place where you can stand up for yourself, where you're bold, where you're courageous, where you can fly off the handle. There's a lot of anger sometimes in there. It depends on your Mars, right? Not everybody's Mars, all of us. We have growing to do. That's what we're doing, right? We have evolvement to have. That's why we came here, so that we can experience things and grow our soul in certain ways, right? Mars is that warrior. um, Mars is, like I said, the warrior, the boundaries, the gumption, the passion, the anger, the rage, the all of it, right? It's all different levels, all different octaves that Mars can be, and depending on where you're at in life, what is your Mars? And let's just say Mars needed to grow up a little. Let's just say Mars needed some experience. Let's say Mars was this great warrior, which is you. I'm talking about you. Great warrior, has been a warrior all their life. But there were some things that you needed to grow. There were some Martian things that you needed to be more experienced in. It reminds me of a warrior or a soldier that is a warrior and a soldier, but they only have the experience of what they have, and they're about to go to the next level, right? So they've gotten a different position. They're now going to be the lieutenant, or they're now going to be the four-star general, or they're now going to be whatever, right? They're going to the next level. That's what's been going on with this Mars. And that's why it's so important now that it's gone direct, right? So it's like throughout these couple of months, because there's a different backstory too. There's a longer backstory, and I'm going to take you through that of why it's important that Mars is direct and what's going to be happening now that he's direct. But he needed to learn some things about himself, and by he, I mean each one of you. We all needed to learn some things about ourselves, right? Things that had been done to us, maybe memories that we hadn't had, maybe. And the reason I say this is because Mars was going in to Cancer. That's when it all started, right? So as he's journeying out of Gemini, and let me pull this chart. Sorry, let me make it bigger for you guys. So on September 5th, right? On September 5th, he moved out of Cancer, I mean, out of Gemini and into Cancer, right? And Cancer is very nurturing. Cancer is very loving. Cancer is a lot of things. Well, that is not Mars. He feels uneasy in there. And so as he began to journey through Cancer, there were some things that he had to look at himself about, right? Like, are my boundaries, do I have too many boundaries? Am I too angry? Am I too outrageous? Um, have I given myself enough love, right? Have I stood my boundaries, or have I overstepped boundaries, right? This was all what was going on with Mars. And as Mars came into Cancer, he began to look at himself. He began to, have memories and have dreams and have things that were coming about that kind of reflected. In this way, there were things in your life around the end of August and into the beginning of September, where maybe situations were coming in front of you and people were coming in front of you that made you sort of question that about yourself, right? Is it the way that I always, as Mars, is it the way that I always see it? Is that true? Or am I way too angry? Or do I have way too many boundaries out? Or maybe that you had gotten so used to having certain boundaries because you needed them when you were young, but you no longer need them. That was Mars going into Cancer and Cancer having him understand that about himself. So he had to do a journey to sort of realign, um, look at what he hadn't nurtured, look at how far he'd come, and look at what he needed to let go of, right? But at the time when he went into Cancer, he didn't know this yet, right? He was just sort of starting to feel that he was actually starting to feel, right? So he was starting to feel he's been having this journey with Venus and Pluto, and look at this. As he was having this journey, I mean, when he came to Pluto, back, and I have videos about this. When he came to Pluto, it was like, are you nurturing yourself? Are you standing your ground? Are you stepping into your power, right? Mars doesn't usually have a problem with the power and the anger and the rage and the gumption and the passion, right? He doesn't usually have that, but he does have an issue with his keeping his boundaries because he has he nurtured himself? Has he loved himself? Has he had enough compassion for himself, right? This is the journey that Mars was going on, right? And on this day, September 5th, when he moved into Cancer, that was a quincunx to Pluto. That means they were speaking, and Pluto was reminding Mars, are you stepping up when you need to? Because not everybody's Mars is the same. So Pluto is asking the question, are you stepping up when you need to? Are you standing in your power when you need to? Are you having enough boldness and courageous and not let the fear hold you back? Are you doing those things? And that's when that conversation was. They had it back when Mars was over here, but he was reminding him, right? And so, Mars, he was just going, 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 going. He's protecting Venus and he's making sure everything's okay. But here, it's almost like it was time for him, right? And so the way that I'm seeing this is at the end of August and into September, at the beginning of September, something was going on and something changed with you guys. And something changed with me too. Like some situation was coming up where you had to make some choices, and they were some bold choices, and they were some courageous. You had to like be courageous, and you had to be bold, and you had to take action, and you had to do that, right? And that was happening of at the end of August and into September, right? And that was the theme that started. So you had this theme of something that you had to take action and be bold and courageous and sort of make happen. You had to be Mars, but you had to be Mars in Cancer. You had to like really look at your safety, at your nurturing, um, at your stability, right? Cancer was causing Mars to do this, right? And Mars um, had the gumption, he has it within him because he's talking to Pluto. And Pluto, that's what Pluto does. Pluto reminds you, are you standing in your power or are you just letting the red flags go? And you've ended up in this situations, right? So then something had changed, and then all of a sudden on October, not all of a sudden, but as the change happened, because it was a change, and it's different for everybody, and I'll go over the houses in a little bit for the signs. Sorry, I'll go over the signs in a little bit. But something had changed, and on October 5th, this is when Mars, and this is an important part, this is when Mars went to 17 degrees. So the change happened around here, around that late August, and then into September, beginning of September, right? So you're moving along. You're feeling better if you made the change. You're feeling better if you changed the pattern. You're feeling better if I'm sorry, not change the pattern. You're feeling better. Well, you were changing patterns. You're feeling better. It's still uneasy. It's new territory. You're not really sure. We have other things going on, and you can watch my other videos where I talk about Jupiter and Uranus and Pluto and Saturn helping you have your dreams during this time, showing you, having them unfold for you, right? But you had to be courageous. You had to be bold. And then on October 5th, this hits an important part. On October 5th, it was at 17 degrees, right? In Cancer. So, as at 17 degrees in Cancer, from that point till December, right? So you're moving along, you're moving along, you're moving along. And then on March, I'm sorry, October 5th, Mars was at 17 degrees, right? So from 17 degrees all the way until December, on December 6th, when it goes retrograde, from that point, when it goes retrograde, we were sort of getting used to being in this new energy, getting used to the choices that we made, trying to solidify these foundations that we did because it was courageous. And some of you probably surprised yourself because it actually worked out, right? You had to make some allowances. The things weren't going perfectly. It wasn't perfect, but it was better than it was, and that's what you were looking for. Does that make sense? So until December, right? So from that point until December 6th. So on December 6th, so think about in October how everything was changing. You were changing patterns. You probably did things a little differently. You were noticing that, like, wow, this isn't like the other years. This is actually different. And we all know this. We've talked about it. If you think back, you're like, oh yeah, I mean, like, this is going to be a different Halloween. We don't have the pandemic. We don't have blah blah blah. Everything's calmed down, we think, right? We're sort of getting used to this new thing that's going on, right? And then December 6th comes. So, but during that time, from October till December 6th, you're like working in it. You're noticing different things. You're, having to adjust because maybe you didn't, um, maybe you made adjustments for a red flag, right? But you were sort of working in it. You were thinking this is better than it was. It's not there yet. That kind of thing. You were making allowances. You were making excuses until December 6th hit. When December 6th hit and Mars went retrograde, so for some people it was December 6th, some people it was December 7th. Depends on where you're at the world. But on December 6th, Mars went retrograde at 6 degrees. Okay. He went retrograde. So he went through Cancer. You were nurturing yourself. You'd made that space. You took that action. You made that jump. You were bold. You were courageous. You were standing your ground. But there were some things in the background that you may have like not dealt with or thought I'll just kind of keep it at bay for now and I'm just going to adjust, right? Then December 6th hits, we have retrograde in Leo. And Leo is very different than Cancer. But this is Mars's journey. And this is where Mars, he's got courage in Leo. He's got gumption in Leo. He's got an open heart in Leo. It's different than it is in Cancer. And he was reminded of the times he did stand up for himself, of the times he did do what he was supposed to for his own good, of the times he was bold and courageous and didn't fear anyone or anything or any situation, right? This is Mars learning more experience. He was reminded and things were coming at him, and it was having him implement these experiences, right? That's Mars. And then he went retrograde in Leo, Mars in Leo, and then he went retrograde. And Leo was asking him, take a look at this again. You're missing something. You're missing something. You're lying to yourself. You are not telling yourself the full truth. You are adjusting where you don't need to adjust because that is not the life that you said that you wanted. That is not the life that you said that you wanted, right? So when Mars went retrograde in Leo, we had to make some adjustments. We had to stand our ground. And it was almost, and I had advised this at the time because I've been doing this journey with Mars and all the planets, but I'd been doing this journey with Mars. And I'd said, at this time, it's almost like you have to fight. You have to fight for your boundary. The one that you thought that you could adjust and you had to fight. So I also advised when you recognize this, in Leo, you can change the old pattern. So Leo gives you the courage. Leo gives you the heart. Leo gives you the gumption. Leo and Mars does way better in Leo than he does in Cancer. In Cancer, he had to deal with his feelings. He had to deal with his emotions. He had to deal with his memories, right? In Leo, he could stand his ground. Okay. So when Mars went retrograde and he had Leo's characteristics with him, he was able to, and I mentioned this, I said, as you see old patterns, change them. When you change them, you are transmuting the energy as you build this solid foundation that we're getting to. That's almost done building the foundation. And that's another video with the other planets that I'll talk about. So when you recognize those old patterns, just change it. You have the gumption, you have Leo behind you, you have all of that. So you were also saying when you did this that there was a foundation beginning to build, and it was unfolding as because we were in retrograde season. It was unfolding as each of the planets went direct. Okay. So as each of the planets went direct, your foundation is getting more and more solid, right? Because during this time we had Jupiter retrograde. We had Uranus retrograde. Look at all these retrogrades we had during that time. December 7th, December 6th, December 7th. We had Mercury retrograde. We had Neptune retrograde. We had Chiron retrograde. We had Uranus retrograde. We had Jupiter retrograde. And we had Mars retrograde. And this was all about sticking to your guns and making the choice and taking the action and fighting for your boundaries, because it was almost like you had to fight for your boundaries. Some of you may have encountered somebody coming up against you, right? So I reminded everybody to keep their boundaries. I said, make your choices and fight for what you want. So if you did, then some changes. If you did, then something changed. And you have continued to work on this change as you gained some peace, some freedom was gained, some happiness was gained. But since then, there's been delays because it has gone back into, it was still retrograde and has gone back as it's retrograding back into Cancer. There was some freedom, there was some peace, there was some happiness, but there's been delays, there's been restriction. And it's almost like you've been stalled as you put your boundaries down, as your old patterns have been changing. And then we come to February 23rd. So now on February 23rd, everything is direct. Okay. So on today's date, February 23rd, 2025, everything is direct. And that feeling of being stalled is going to dissipate, and that feeling of being restricted so much is going to dissipate. And we have 7 days or a little bit more till March 1st or 2nd before Venus retrogrades. Okay, so today's date is to the 23rd. On the 23rd, Mars goes direct. So all of that thing that you were dealing with, whatever changes you made, whatever came up in August, and then you had to make an adjustment in December. Now it's February and it is go time. And you have all the planets that are behind you. Okay. But especially for Mars, Mars has grown into experience. Mars has grown his experience. He understands more about his feelings. He connected to his emotion. He was realizing that there were some boundaries that needed to be put that he hadn't put because from his childhood or from his teen or from the way that he learned to do things and adjust and protect himself. Right? And so that's been the journey of Mars. And now as Mars goes into direct, I mean, now that Mars goes direct, you're going to see that the things that you have been working on, the things that have felt stalled, the things that were restricted, the things that were delayed, the miscommunications, the oh, I almost got it but I didn't, the cancellations, all of that is going away, and it is go time. So for the next 7 days, it's not going to be like a fast thing, but when you get an opportunity, and every house is different, and I'm about to go over that, but when you get the opportunity now in these next 7 days, you already put your boundaries down, you already made your choice, you already know where you're going. Your foundation is getting more and more solid as you become the experienced warrior in this new position that you have as a warrior. And now, one more thing as we take a look before I go to the signs. I want you to look on this day, on the 23rd, when Mars goes direct, right? He's going to be weak square between him and Venus, okay? And that's important, even though it's a weak square, and it's going to continue to stay weak because Mars is now Venus, it's going to be Venus's turn to retrograde. So we got 7 days where all the planets are together, and then Venus is going to retrograde on on March 1st or 2nd, and then on March 15th, Mercury is going to retrograde right next to Venus. So Venus is slowing down because she's about to station retrograde. She's about to retrograde March 2nd, 1st or 2nd, and then she is going to Mercury is going to come up this way, and he is going to come right here about the 15th, and then he is going to be retrograde. So you're going to have Mars and Mercury retrograde, and she is talking to Mars, right? Or have you continued to nurture yourself? Then it's going to be Venus's turn to look at that, right? So that's why I'm saying when opportunities come up right now in this next week, and all the planets are direct, when choices need to be made, when action needs to be taken, the action that Mars had been taking was just every once in a while with those red flags that we had seen before, that we had to do to change this vibration. Now it's going to be action, action, action. Now is not the time to be sitting with the feeling a long time. You should have already done this, known this, and know exactly how you want it, not which way you're going, but how you want your foundations, how you want your life, how, like, you guys may have had some dreams from August until now that you kind of changed a little. Maybe I thought I wanted that, but now I want this. I thought I wanted someone, but now I don't. Well, I thought I wanted this person, but now I realize that that was not the person. I want this person, right? Whatever this is go time. Okay? So just know the next important thing is that Venus is there's a weak square. So there is something about nurturing yourself, about loving yourself, about having compassion for yourself, about protecting yourself, that you're going to need to take action on. Okay? So just know that that's important, and you'll understand better as Mercury comes here. Okay? So if you're Cancer, Mars is in your house, right? And I already discussed. So this had something to do, this is your first house, right? If you're Cancer ascending, Cancer rising, you can look at it from your sun and your moon, but I would look at it from all three because it gives you a well-rounded thing that's going on in your life. I know that was a question that some people had. So if you were born with any planets at 17, so I would say from like 14 degrees to 20 degrees. 17, yeah. So 14 degrees to 20 degrees. So if you have any planets 14 degrees or 20 degrees, it is go time for you. This has to do with your identity. This has to do with you keeping your like addressing those red flags, because you were not being nurtured, you were not being loved, you were not being in where either you had compassion for yourself or people around you didn't. Okay, so this is like, there's a choice to be made, there's an action to be taken, there's something having to do with your identity, with the way that You see yourself in this new life that you're trying to create, right? Leo and Gemini, this is a semi-sextile, right? So Mars for you didn't really, it was a semi-sextile. You had a little bit of, you guys are probably frustrated because you had a little bit of opportunity. Gemini a little bit more because she has Jupiter there. Um, but um, but it's a semi-sextile, which means there was kind of opportunity coming in, and then it kind of went away, and then it kind of came in, and then it would be stalled, or then it would be delayed. And this was happening to both of y'all. Both of y'all. Delays, stalls, but it could have been even more so with Gemini. Like the luck would have been good here, but also the delay would have been longer or the cancellation would have happened or something. Okay. And Gemini, this has to do because Cancer's in your second house. This has to do with your money. This has to do with the way you make your money. This has to do with your value system. This has to do with your worthiness, right? And Leo, this has to do with the things that you thought that you had seen yourself or seen happen. It wasn't coming through, and you were using modalities, and you were trying to get it to go, and it just wasn't. It's not. That's what was happening. Is this Mars was in here. It was making you look at those boundaries that you couldn't see, right? You couldn't see them all the time. You can't see why it wasn't coming. This is your 12th house, right? So that would be Gemini and Leo, okay? And then Taurus and Virgo. This was a sextile. So during this retrograde, like you guys are sextiling the south node right now, Virgo. There's a sextile for the south node right now. But or almost kind of. But anyway, this was the sextile. So there was opportunity that was, so the opportunity didn't necessarily have to be a gift, but you could have had a gift, like a tangible one. Is not what I was, it's not like you may have gotten a tangible gift. The gift was more about you knowing yourself better, more about you standing up and having the courage and nurturing yourself and really honoring you. And that was for both of you guys. There was opportunity for you guys to do that. There was opportunity for you guys to grow your Mars, for you to understand that you have a place in this world, for you to really solidify. Because I know a couple of, like, Taurus has gone through, like, what do I want to do? Everything I thought I should do, it's all been taken away, and I've had to adjust and change. That's been going on for like a couple of years, right? So this is your Mars growing. This is like, am I seeing the red flags? Am I standing and saying no and getting those toxic people out of my way and all of that? Like, where are you growing your Mars? Or where, I mean, like, some of you can be overbearing and it's too much Mars, and that's what you were kind of dealing with. So for both of you, you had opportunities. It's almost like the universe was like, you have the perfect opportunity for you to stand your ground, for you to, like, not only did you see the red flag, but you understood how to get out of the red flag, right? Like, it was being very clear for you. This was a good aspect for you. But also, if you have anything in, again, from 15 to 20, if you have any planets, that was the opportunities that were coming to you. But there was some stalling, there was some delays, there was some, like, I get a little bit and then it stops, right? This was for all of us, right? And if you have a planet in Cancer from 15 to 20 degrees, then that would have changed too. That would have given you the opportunity to work in that area. Okay. Okay, let me add this for Taurus and Virgo. This was happening in your for excuse me, for Virgo. This was happening in your 11th house. This had to do with the groups of people, and group can be one or two people, right? I mean, group can be you and another person. That's a group. This had to do with your networking, your groups. There was some stalling, there was some reorganizing, there was some like realizing that the people that you thought you wanted around you don't want around, realizing that the people that you thought were safe to have around you, um, that you no longer need to put up with people's BS, basically. I mean, that's what that 11th house was showing, that Mars in the 11th house was showing you, right? And as you stood your ground and as you let go of those people and as you said your truth and you're realizing you don't have to work as hard to try to get people to like you or to try to be in some sort of group that you kind of agree with but don't agree with, right? And that's what Mars was showing you. That's what your Mars needed to grow to step more into this life, to look at your red flags, to stop making excuses, to have the friends around you and the people around you, the groups around you, that you don't have to sit there and heal. You just have to be you, and the right people are around you. That's your Mars. You're being bold, you're being courageous, right? And so there's this decision. You've already made it. There's this action that is going to come where you're going to take the action. There's an action that you have to take um, as this thing moves forward. Okay, as you move forward. All right. And Taurus, this was in your third house. So this had to do with, your neighbors. And again, so Virgo and Taurus, if you have a planet here between 15 and 20 degrees, or in your house between 15 and 20 degrees, you were having to understand in this house about networking, about the groups that you have, about the people that you have around you, right? About what are you going to do about that? Are you going to continue what you've always done before, but you've seen the truth now and you don't want to do that anymore? But are you going to continue to do it? Or are you not? Right? With Taurus, with it being in your third house, Taurus, this had to do with something that you were trying to uncover, trying to study, trying to figure out which way am I going to go. So you had to research. There was delays for both of y'all. There were some delays. There were some pulling back. There were some cancellations. There were some things going on. But now that it's direct, all that's going to move forward. You've already thought about all this. These scenarios and situations already have come to you. There was just some stalling, and so there's some choices that you're going to have to make. With Taurus, it being in your third house, it could have to do with your siblings that you're having to deal with, like really stepping and standing in your ground. It could have to do with short distance travel, right? So whatever is going on around you that you had seen or that you had to stand your ground in that began in September, um, is now going to be finishing up and moving forward now. Aries and Libra. So Aries and Libra. This was a square for you. This is a harder aspect. So this was like you having to stand up. Aries sometimes doesn't have the problem standing up, but she kind of sometimes likes to ignore the red flags because she tells herself she doesn't really care, but she does, right? She just doesn't stay mad for long. So she would rather that the anger just kind of goes away and she forgets about it, right? But that's not what was letting you happen. It wasn't letting you do that anymore. So there was if you have a planet here within within the 15 to 20 degrees in Aries or 15 to 20 degrees in Libra, you guys were having a push and pull, a push and pull. I thought I did it right. It's not coming out. I'm having delays. Things are happening. This person did this, blah, blah, blah. It was a square, right? And if you have anything from 15 to 20 degrees in your natal chart, you were really having issues about that, right? Sorry, for Aries, this was happening in your fourth house, right? So one, two, three, four. Um, so if you have planets between 15 degrees and 20 degrees in Aries, and or you have a planet between 15 and 20 degrees in Cancer, this is really affecting you. Almost like, those boundaries were being crossed. Uh, maybe you had to let go of some family members. Maybe you had to let go of some um, um, way that you believed before, but now you don't. This is your fourth house. This was really hitting you deep inside, like the place that nobody knows about, the place like this was really causing you to like change that and understand that better and nurture that finally. Nurture that part of you, realizing that because you don't have a problem understanding that you're important. But when it comes to like family members or friends or loved ones, you can have this way of not having the boundary where you should, right? That's what was being worked on. And for Libra, this was in your 10th house. Okay. So this is in your job. This is in your career. If you have any planets between 15 and 20 degrees in your first house, or if you have any planets 15 to 20 degrees here in your 10th house, that was really being highlighted. Are you standing your ground? Are you allowing your bosses or the people that you work with, your coworkers, are you allowing them to go over your boundaries? Are you really standing up for yourself? Are you allowing people to cross the line? To cross the line with you? Or have you nurtured yourself? Have you nurtured your Mars? Have you been too critical? Is it too far out there? Are you understanding better about how you want to be seen in this world? That was being worked on. And so whatever was started in like that late August into September, that's about to be finished. That's about to move forward, right? You're going to go into new energy if you have nurtured yourself, had compassion for yourself, grow that part of you that you didn't see but was told to you and shown to you, right? Scorpio and Pisces. Pisces and Scorpio, y'all had the luck. It wasn't easy. Like, none of this is easy. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying things went your way. Like, it was almost like you were protected. This is a trine. So, Pisces, um, Pisces and Scorpio, you have a trine to this. You have a trine to this Mars. So you had the trine to Cancer, right? So things went your way. You were able to see these things. You were able to make the choices and do the thing and stand in your truth and stand in your power and understand and grow that. Grow that. Like, you did have to stand up for yourself, but you found the courage, most of you, right? So some people didn't, but um, and you had many gifts coming to you. I won't say many. You had gifts coming to you in this way where you had the it wasn't even just opportunity, it was like being at the right place at the right time. Um, and all you had to do was be you, because this was a gift from you guys working on yourselves, right? But as Mars goes direct, there are some actions that you're going to have to take. There are some things like you got really clear. You kind of understand where you want to go and what you want to do. You have like everybody. There's been delays. This was an easier energy. It wasn't. I'm not saying it was easy, but it was an easier than the other signs. So now that you're clear about where you want to go, about the foundation that you're trying to build, now it's go time, right? So you've had it wasn't even the opportunity. You had the gifts being shown to you of what is possible in your life, of how you can do it. And now it's time to take the action. So it's kind of up to you. You get a trine. But that's the thing that I've always said about trines. I kind of like, I mean, I love trines. Everybody loves trines, but you don't work so hard with a trine. Like, you can miss the opportunity because because it was just falling in your lap, and you're like, what do I do with this, right? So, with Mars, especially if you have a planet here. So, Scorpio and Pisces, if you have a planet within 15 to 20 degrees here or in your sign, uh, there is some action that you have to take. And this was in for Pisces One, two, three, four, five. This had to do with your pleasure. This had to do with something you're creating. It still does. It has to do with what you're creating. It has to do with the thing that you want to create. It has to do with your happiness, your joy. What are you going to do about that now? You've seen it. It's come to you. You've gotten to relax in it. You've gotten your information, Pisces. Are you gonna bring it down like Saturn's been teaching you how to do in your house? Or are you going to continue to want to escape and leave it there where it's just a possibility and not a foundation? That's kind of up to you. Now, Scorpio, this is in your 12, 11, 10, 9. This is in your ninth house. So this was your belief system. This could have been this could have been a trip too. Foreign lands, foreign travel. Um, you got a gift here. You had some clarity. You understood more, better about what was actually possible for you. As long as you stood, yeah, because some of you had to make a choice to get rid of some situation or somebody or something. And when you did that, you saw this gift. You were able to either do what you've always wanted to do one time in your life or not have the things go wrong like they usually do because you guys have been through so much trauma. Whatever this was, this is your belief system. This is your modalities. Maybe because it's a gift. You guys, some of you Scorpios may have finished and gotten a license or a degree or a certificate in one of the modalities. I mean, it could be that too, because you did the work and stood your ground and got rid of the red flags and paid attention and did all that, right? So, um, but now is go time. Now it's time to take the action. Now it's maybe you've been dreaming about doing this. Maybe you've been dreaming about going to foreign travel. Maybe you tried and it was getting delayed. But now it's not. Now it's go time. All right, next up is Sagittarius and Aquarius. So, Sagittarius and Aquarius, this is Quincunx. So, Mars being here is Quincunx to you and Cancer. So, if you have any planets between 15 degrees and 20 degrees in your natal chart in Cancer, or within your own house between 15 degrees and 20 degrees, Aquarius and Sag, this is a quincunx. And so there is a quincunx is two planets that have nothing in common that must solve a problem. And I know that for both of you, you probably had to make a really hard choice and had to finagle some things and had to be really, it was time for you to look at yourself and comfort yourself. It was it's almost like you got a reality check of, if I want my life this way, then I must do this. And both of you guys are courageous enough to do this, right? It happened in different areas of your lives, but it was kind of that. It was it's a problem that's coming up. It's been a problem that's coming up and it must be solved. And I'm tired of dealing with it. I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm just going to do this because this is the way that I feel. And this should have been done a long time ago. Okay? That's what could have been coming up for you guys. And for Sag, this would have been in your 1, 12, 11, 10, 9, your eighth, right? So I don't know why I had to count. um, but for Sag, this is in your eighth house, right? So this had to do with contracts. This had to do with maybe even some inheritances that came in. You had to make some choice. There were some delays. There were things going on. You were going to get it and then you didn't. This had to do with contracts that you were going to sign. Maybe you were getting a deal and then it stalled. Maybe you were getting another thing. Maybe you were about to get a job and it stalled. Whatever this contract, maybe you have a partner that y'all have been working on trying to get married, or you're married and you're trying to figure out if you're going to continue, and all of this is being stalled. It was being delayed. Things were getting misrepresented, but it was because you had to stand in your truth, Not worry about hurting somebody's feelings, but standing in your truth. And this could have been a judgment because it's the eighth house. But whatever was going on here, there was transformation of your Mars, your understanding that I don't have to always be so forceful, but if I make my choice, it's almost like that silent warrior where I've made my choice. I don't need to explain anything to anybody. I already made it. It's done. Right? So, whatever this problem was that it started in late August, beginning of September should be resolving now. And Aquarius, this happened in your what, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth house. So this had to do with your everyday life and your health and well-being. Like, am I taking care of myself? Am I working out like I want to? Am I meditating like I want to? Am I doing the practices that I want to? Am I living my everyday life like I want to? Am I putting in the work and making it organized? Or am I detaching, disassociating, and forgetting about it? Right? Your Mars needed to grow up. Your Mars needed to evolve. Your Mars needed to not overtake your emotions and cause you to disassociate. You have to stay in them and stand your ground and do your thing. It was very important for you to understand this. There was a problem that had come up that you continued to make excuses for, and it came up around the end of August into September. And you made your choice and you did your thing and you thought you did right, and then you were like back and forth and what do I do, and I did, and then retrograde came and you did your thing and you were brave and you're courageous and you were pissed but you did it right. And so then you're sitting here because you're like, I've done everything I'm supposed to do, right, Aquarius? Why isn't it not opening up like it usually does? That's because you weren't finished. That's because as each of the planets went direct, you were able to have more and more of your foundation put down. Okay? But you did solve the problem. You did do it right. Now there's there's one more action that you've got to take, and you should start receiving the things that you saw before. Okay? That makes sense? All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. If everybody could let me know in the comments, what was it that started in September and what have you learned from then, and what actions did you, or what things that you have to do, and to help you move through this and to help you understand more about yourself. That would be great. I would really love to know. If you guys can remember to like, share, and subscribe, that would be great as well. Have a great one. I will see you on the next one. Bye.